Are we live, Chip?
Yeah, didn't you hear me?
We were chatting over it. So sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm calling to order the Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, December 2nd. Council members in attendance include Councilmember Nueva Camina, Council President Kritzer, Councilmember Anderson, and Councilmember Forsyth is online. We have 3 items on our agenda today, and the first 2 are from Public Works. So the first item is approval of the final contract with Technical Systems Incorporated and accept contract for the control systems and telemetry upgrades, Phase 3 project. Introducing the item tonight is going to be Steve Gibbs. Welcome, Steve.
Good afternoon, Council. Steve Gibbs with Capital Construction. This is to accept the contract for and final contract amount with Technical Systems, Inc., otherwise known as TSI, for about $3.72 million. This contract is slightly over budget, but was slightly over contract, but well within budget, given back about $870,000 to the utility. This upgraded the telemetry SCADA systems for basically most of the water system sites. So there's 12 different sites through the city, flow stations, a couple of, I think 4 tanks and 3 wells, and basically upgraded to our new system and improving basically communication to and from the command center to out into these remote sites. Did have a change order on this one to also include a sewer lift station, was the final remaining lift station, and now that it was lift station 18, and now that sewer lift stations are all complete with the updated SCADA as well. And then we did have another change order to include some connect the intrusion alarms at those sites into the SCADA system there. So we're looking for consent at the January 6th business meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Are there questions on this item from the council? Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Gibbs, thanks for bringing this forward. No question, just a comment that I get pretty happy and excited when I hear about doing things that is going to take us forward and being forward-thinking to where we're not waiting for things to be broken. So I'm excited to have this be on consent.
Any other comments or questions on this item? Okay, well, are there any objections to this item going to consent on January 6th, 2026? Seeing no objections, it looks like we'll have this one back in the new year. Thank you so much, Mr. Gibbs.
See you then, thank you.
Item number 2 on our agenda tonight is also from Public Works. The item is to approve the consultant agreement with DKS Associates for the citywide Safe Speed Study and Audit Project. Introducing the item is Paul Cho. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Paul Cho, Traffic Engineering Manager, and we're happy to bring forward a contract with DKS Associates to do a safe speed audit for the city of Redmond. So we're going to be taking a look at the speeds, the actual speeds, and then also doing an analysis on the preferred speeds, taking into account the classification of roadway, the land use, and then other factors such as proximity to community buildings or libraries, community centers, schools. And then DKS will help us put the framework together for setting appropriate speed limits, and then also proposing some projects to help us modify the roadways to encourage those speeds. And I have here with me is Isabel Diaz, and she'll be the project manager. And you can kind of give a little bit more detail on some of the contract and finances.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Isabel Diaz, traffic engineer with Public Works, and this item is to approve the consultant agreement with DKS Consultants in the amount of $152,200 for the development of the citywide safe speed study and audit. In addition to what Paul already mentioned, our communities are growing, so is the need to provide safe speeds for everyone inside the city of Redmond. And this study is key to provide that framework for setting different speed limits in the city. They will be evaluating these areas where speeding is more susceptible to occur in city streets, and then implement or set a framework for setting different speed limits, lowering the speed limits, and providing recommendations on those areas where we would be changing the speeds. We are also seeking for the item to be on the consent agenda for the January 6th meeting, and yeah, I think that would be it. We will be happy to take any questions if you have any.
Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I see the first question goes to Council Vice President Forsyth.
Thank you. Curious, when reading through the contract, I appreciated that it's going to be studying bike traffic as well. I was interested in knowing what time of year this is going to occur and about how long. And sorry if I missed that in the contract.
Yes, we have outlined a 1 year, like 12-month contract with them. We expect to be done, if everything goes as planned, by the end of next year.
So the study will occur for 12 months, or will this, when, I'm still not quite clear.
So maybe I can help. So there are preferred times of the year to do
Right.
the speed studies. So a lot of times it's somewhere in the spring or fall timeframe where school is in session and kind of not 10% of the population is on vacation.
Right. Fair. Thank you. Appreciate that. And it'll be at least a couple of weeks or maybe months long.
Yeah, it'll depend on the exact corridors that we're going to be studying, but we don't anticipate the data gathering to be more than a month.
Okay. Thank you.
Council President Kritzer.
I have a couple questions. One, first of all, excited about this, so thank you so much for the work on it. One question I had is that I noticed in the grant award letter, it notes $200,000, but on our memo, it notes $152,000 for the contract. Can you explain that discrepancy there?
Yeah, so so the grant does cover in a little bit in addition to the 152 that the 152 is only for the consultant contract. So the grant covers more to that, so that would account into staff time, review time, and work from city staff.
Great. And then, so when we're actually doing the speed study tracking, where we're actually gathering the data, what is that going to look like for the public? Are there going to be different cameras set up around on the roadways, just so in case we get questions from the public of seeing a lot of cameras around?
Yes, we will get more details on how because it will be done by a sub-consultant specialized in traffic counts. We will get more details into what types of devices they would use to get that information. It would depend on the sub-consultant. It could be traffic, the tubes. It could be they could set up cameras too for traffic counts. But we will definitely inform the public when the time comes if it goes more than just the tubes.
Yeah, we already do annual traffic counts, and that just kind of happens already. So we don't anticipate it being too much more than that. If we anticipate that it's going to draw a lot of attention, then we'll probably provide some communications through our communication outlets to let folks know if you see anything. More than anything, if anything is out of place, for example, if they are using tube methods, if the tube comes up, hey, who do we contact, right? Or if there is a camera mounted and somehow the mounting breaks or something, I'm pretty sure the public would want to say, hey, yeah, I think your thing is broken. Can you go fix it?
Great, thank you. Yeah, we've just had a lot of conversation about cameras in our city, so wanted to make sure that I was clear of how that's going to show up. Thanks.
Thank you. Before I go to the next council member, just on this point, since there seems to be a lot of question, it looks like on page 30 of the council packet here, it does describe the duration of the collection and how that will be done, and it doesn't describe any cameras, it describes the pneumatic tubes. Would you expect cameras to actually be used, just so we can clarify some of the questions that have been raised?
Yeah, so we're going to get deeper into it once we start with the consultant. There are various options that we can look at, and part of it is also big data. So, but we always want to calibrate the big data with spot traffic counts, and some of it is done with tubes. And then if we're looking at information near an intersection, the consultant may opt to use a camera, and they're like little balls about that big.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Councilmember Nueva Camina, you had the next question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Paul, for elaborating on that. And by no means do I think that it's the intention of this council to get in the weeds at this level. However, given the sensitivities right now and with no end in sight of climate shifting in any way, if there are to be cameras, we'd just like to know, so in this way we can be letting the public know, we can be having conversations, because things are a bit, folks are a little on edge right now. So just in this way, we're creating good partnership.
Understood, and we'll definitely take that into account.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and chime in with one of my main questions. So this is really exciting, as my colleagues have said. We are very interested in the results of this audit and this study and the recommendations that will come. I love that the scope of work outlines a review of so much of the data that we do already have, as well as a policy analysis of some of the regulations we're seeing in neighboring cities and results we're seeing in neighboring cities. So I cannot wait to see this all collated together, especially as we work to begin to implement the transportation master plan. The question of policy around speeds and traffic speeds has been a multi-departmental conversation. So can you describe how you all in Public Works and kind of the holders of this particular contract are coordinating with planning and community development, who is the lead author on, say, the transportation master plan, as well as police and how they might be involved in the study itself?
Great questions. So we did partner with planning and community development, specifically transportation planning and engineering. They have a very strong vested stake. Also, it was part of the Safe Street Action Plan, and so we partnered together. They were instrumental in obtaining the grant for this initial work. And so we are going to have stakeholder meetings. Definitely enforcement is part of it. If we propose a change in speed limit, enforcement is going to be a very integral part of that. So yeah, we are going to be working with police. We are going to be working with planning. Also, maintenance. If we do make some changes, there's going to be signs and striping and other infrastructure that needs to be modified to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll take a lot of coordination. So I guess for my part, once we have the results of this study and we begin to use it to make some decisions, I'll be very interested in having all three departments sitting at the table with us all at the same time on a little bit more regular basis as we kind of get into the decisions, because otherwise the conversation, at least in this room, is happening a bit more piecemeal, and I just think it could be helpful to all be at the same table. Council President Kritzer.
Yeah, thank you. So speaking of our Safer Streets for All action plan, one area of the proposal that I was curious about was the crash maps piece of the scope of work. I know when we were doing our Safer Streets for All action plan, we had done kind of a similar exercise to be able to create a GIS map to look at common places where we had seen crashes and different types of serious events of serious injury. And so I'm just curious what we're going to get out of these crash maps that are different from kind of what we had created in that previous iteration? Or will we be leveraging those maps?
Yes, so that's a very valid point and question. Yes, we will be coordinating with all the work that has already been done, and we'll be using that data. And what we would do is get that information and alongside with what the consultant will be provided, but yes, it will be in alignment with the work that has already been done with the Safer Streets Action Plan. And we have been coordinating with the transportation planning and engineering from the very beginning and early stages of this plan, even creating the scope of it.
Any other questions from the council? Are there any objections to this item going to consent at the first business meeting of 2026? All right, looks like we're good to go. Thank you both so much. Really looking forward to having the results of the study come back.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Thank you.
The third and final item on our agenda today is from Planning and Community Development. The item is the Overlake Commons Master Plan Development Agreement and Site Plan Entitlement. This item is quasi-judicial and is slated for a study session on January 27th. Introducing the item is Carol Helland, and Alex Hunt is here as well. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Carol Helland, Planning and Community Development Director. Happy December, everyone. And I'm joined today by Senior Planner Alex Hunt, who's here to give a brief overview of the Overlake Commons Master Plan, Development Agreement, and Site Plan Entitlement. The desired outcome for this evening is for us to collect your preliminary questions in anticipation of the study session that's scheduled for January 27th. And as a reminder, because we will keep saying it, that this is a Type 5 quasi-judicial action that requires council decision and approval, and the appearance of fairness doctrine does apply. So thank you so much for your attention. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Alex.
Thank you, Carol. Good afternoon, council members. Again, my name is Alex Hunt. I'm a senior planner with the Planning and Community Development Department. Thank you for the disclaimer on the quasi-judicial. We'll keep on giving you the disclaimer and note that communications outside the scope of council meetings must be disclosed and could result in the disqualification of a decision maker if objections to participation are raised by the parties. So with that gotten out of the way, the item that we're looking at this evening is a consolidated application for a master plan, development agreement, and site plan entitlement for the Overlake Commons project. And the scope of that project would be an 8 to 9 story multifamily residential development with up to 830 residential units at 2956 152nd Avenue Northeast. That's just across the street from Overlake Village Light Rail Station, and it's the current site of the Overlake Terrace Senior and Assisted Living Facility. This proposal would be vested to 2024 zoning code standards under RZC 2112-505, transition to new standards. So as mentioned, the next steps for this item would be a study session on January 27th, and then a public hearing and potential action by the council on February 17th. So I'm happy to take any questions at this time to be thoroughly addressed during that January study session. And if there are questions that come up in between now and then, I'm happy to take any questions, collect them via email anytime before January 7th.
Thank you so much, Alex and Director Helland, for that introduction. Before we go around the table, it occurs to me that this will be a quasi-judicial item, definitely the first one that we do with a couple of new colleagues in January. So for the record and the listening public, could you actually identify the question at hand for the decision makers in in January? The scope of the question?
The question that will be decided by council, that is? Yes, okay. The question for council will be whether to approve an application, essentially, for a master plan, development agreement, and site plan entitlement that then would entitle and allow for future development of this site by capstone development of 830 multifamily residential units. So we're asking for approval of that application is the question at hand.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And I'll just add to that, the reason this particular application comes before the city council is because of its posture with the development agreement. Development agreements under GMA, the Growth Management Act, are required actually to have action taken by the legislative body, even though it's quasi-judicial. And at the time of the hearing, you will be asked whether you have had any actions with or relationships with the property owner or the property developer, and asked to disclose those. The reason is because land use decisions are supposed to be free of actual or actually appearance of bias. And that's where the appearance of fairness actually is given some credence. I do know from conversations with COO Files and the mayor that there will be briefings for the other city council members, and I know one of the items will be orientation to appearance of fairness doctrine.
Wonderful. Thank you, and thank you for taking the extra time. Council Vice President Forsyth, thank you for your patience. You do have the first question.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And after reviewing the documentation, I just had one question on, there's a cluster of trees, some significant trees, just to the south of the entry drive across from the light rail station. And I was interested in learning more about if we are able to do anything to protect a couple of those trees. It looks like their plan is mostly to clear the lot completely, but the way the site is being developed from the drawings, it looks like some of those trees could be saved. So I'm hoping that there's a way to save some of those significant trees, as we've seen a big decrease in our significant tree canopy in that area.
Thank you. Council President Kritzer.
I would add that I would be interested in, during the study session, to be able to hear more about the tree exception piece in this application. I'm also interested overall in some of the administrative design flexibility pieces, for example, around solid waste collection, parking. I think would be helpful to have a couple of kind of top lines on, and also the ground level uses, if we could just go over some of the reasoning for that and the recommendation on that. I think that would be very helpful. And I think I had one other, but I'll let others go and then I'll jump in.
Councilmember Nueva Camino.
Thank you. I'm having technical difficulties tonight with my laptop, and I'm unable to access my questions. I have two, and I'll be happy to email those once I can get back into my laptop.
Yeah, if you could just email those to me, that'd be great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll add my comments in, and then it looks like we have a round two. I am interested in making sure we have a chance to discuss the adjustments to, okay. I am interested in discussing how this project is vested to the old code, and also how we as a city have advanced now with Redmond 2050. I did see, for instance, on the parking, that the old code requires a higher parking ratio than actually this application does have, so I was pleased to see that. I also want to be sure that we have a chance to discuss potentially where the old code that they are vested in, and the regulations for Overlake that we worked so hard on recently, how closely we ended up aligning with this project with the community goals that we have, especially around affordability, and having this parking ratio across from a light rail station is noteworthy to me, and I'm hoping we can hear a little bit more about that. Council President Kritzer, did you have a round two?
Yeah, you teed it up really well. So, I would love, I think, that this is taking advantage of the Overlake Village Incentive Program, and specifically the decarbonization requirements. So being able, and I think overall, there's also a mention in there around kind of the affordable housing pieces. So I think it'd be helpful to know, I think specifically if we could have maybe a slide in the study session around the proposed public benefits that we would get from this development, and tying that to the different tools that we have. It'd be helpful to be able to kind of have that in addition to the overall benefit of creating more housing and aligning with our goals to create more housing in Overlake.
Any other questions from the council? I will just add, I would like to hear a bit more about the concern that came up during the Planning Commission's hearing regarding the displacement of senior housing with this development. Okay. So council, if you have further questions ahead of the study session in January, it sounds like you can email them to the staff. Otherwise, this item continues to be quasi-judicial, and so we will not be discussing it outside of open session. Anything else, Director Helen?
No, thank you so much.
Okay, wonderful.
See you in January.
Thank you. And with that, we have reached the end of the agenda, so thank you so much, everyone. We will be back at 7 o'clock for the business meeting later tonight. Thank you. We are adjourned.